NBC's Melanie DeZanona is in Las Vegas. Simone Sanders Townsend is co-host of The Weekend and an MSNBC political analyst. With me in studio, Ali Vitale, host of MSNBC's Way Too Early. Simone, we'll get to what happened in Nevada or in Wyoming, but let me start with the Democrats. Whether or not they're unhappy because they see their party as powerless, feckless, do you see some inkling of the start of a grassroots revolution here?
Yeah, Chris, I do. I think the last time you and I chatted, I said that the people have the power here. And in 2017, when people look back to that time, the last time Donald Trump was president, the resistance, if you will, was not led by the elected officials, but it was led by the people. I think what we're seeing here is different. I do think this is very akin to the early inklings of the Tea Party way back when President Obama was the president, because the people are angry. They are upset, they're frustrated, but they also have a sense of hopelessness, if you will, in a lot of people that I've spoken with, Chris. And those things are a mixture for something that's not just going to go away. And so if the elected leadership is not responsive to the real feelings that these people have right now, I do think that the leadership is going to change, that the people will not be satisfied because they're just not going to get over it.
Yeah, Ellie, you were in Poughkeepsie last night for a town hall. I don't know how you made it back for Way Too Early, but we'll talk about that another time.
You do magic.
The Democratic Congressman, Pat Ryan, I didn't get the sense from watching what I saw this morning that they were so much directed at him, but they were direct.
There is this really fascinating dynamic where they know that their congressman is pushing on their behalf. He spotlighted multiple stories of constituents, the experiences that they were having because DOJ had made cuts to the VA or housing and urban development, and the fallout and impact of that on the community level. So the anger is not directed at him, but the larger party apparatus. They feel there's no strategy. They feel there's no direction. And look, we were in New York and people were talking about Senator Chuck Schumer because there's still a long tail there to the way that he handled the shutdown. Watch. We're in New York. Chuck Schumer, of course, has been a senator here for a while.
Yeah.
In that room when he was brought up, people booed.
Booed him, yeah.
It's not normal for Chuck Schumer in New York.
Not at all. I don't think what he did was likable, clearly. Was it the best move? I understand it, but we're bringing pillows to a knife fight, and nothing is helping.
So you see people on the street, and people on the street are mad. People on the street are passionate, and we're not seeing that from leadership at points. So there are leaders out there that are fighting that fight, and there are leaders out there that are that same old model of let's comply and complain.
Comply and complain, I think, is one of those lasting statements that, for me, I'm going to keep track of. Because voters that I was talking to there and at other town halls, I've said, well, what would enough be? What do you need to see? And I think people realize that Democrats are in the minority, but they just want to see some fight, some creativity, and they don't feel they're getting that yet.
Yeah, and Simone, the message from actually both Democrats and Republicans to their elected leaders is similar in that way, right? You're not hearing us. Your actions aren't reflecting what we're telling you we need in our lives. It's hard to ignore Harriet Hageman standing on a stage in front of her constituents saying it's bizarre how obsessed you are with the government and calm down. Do people at the very least need to have their feelings and fears in general acknowledged at the least?
And not only acknowledged, but also validated. As a former comms person, I cringed when I heard the Congresswoman say that, because it feels dismissive to the voters and the people that you're talking to. I think that's part of the real fervor, if you will, around Leader Schumer, is not just what he did and said last week with that vote, but his response afterwards, seeming dismissive of the people who are, quite frankly, upset. They're frustrated, who feel like they're not being heard. Now, in terms of what can Democrats do versus Republicans, I think there has to be a two-pronged approach. They do have to call out and say, this is what Republican elected officials are doing, specifically Republicans in the House, because every member of the House of Representatives is up for re-election, and there's a real opportunity for Democrats to take back the House. But then the Democrats have to go further and say what they would do if, in fact, they are given the opportunity to be in charge. Pat Ryan had that town hall in his district. I thought he's a very interesting character. He's someone someone that was elected in a district that is definitely purple. He took up the mantle of freedom, if you will, when he first got elected in a special, talking about freedom encompassing everything from the economy to reproductive care and reproductive rights. He's someone that people believe is a straight talker, if you will. And his model and how he has connected with the people in his district, I do think is something that Democrats are actively trying to replicate across the country in their frontline members, but also in some of these places where, like Matt Walsh's district, who there's a special election in Florida coming up. Matt Walsh, now National Security Advisor to the president, the Democratic candidate in that district, raised $10 million.
Yeah, Melanie, that brings me to Las Vegas, where Senator Sanders and AOC are holding their own town hall. They clearly see an opening. Do we know how they plan to take advantage of it?
Yeah, AOC and Bernie Sanders clearly see an opportunity here. They want to show voters that there are still elected Democratic politicians willing to take on Donald Trump and Elon Musk. They also want to mobilize working class voters and younger voters with a populist message. And they really want to turn the anger and channel the anger into action. I don't think it's a coincidence that these rallies, which are expected to draw really large crowds, are taking place in battleground states and college campuses, or in places like here in Las Vegas, which are home to a large number of service industry workers. Now, Bernie has been holding these types of events all year, but the fact that AOC is now joining him for this leg of the tour has really fueled speculation about her own political future, especially after that funding fight last week. Democrats are really desperate for an authentic voice to take on Trump. An increasing number of Democrats are now looking to AOC in that fight. Some of her House colleagues have even encouraged her to primary Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer in 2028, while others think she could very well run for president in 2028. Now, AOC's advisors say she isn't currently planning anything and that she is really focused on this current moment, but they're also not ruling anything out either.
So, Allie, I want to play a little bit of what Congressman Ryan, who I think, as was rightfully pointed out, is seen by many of his constituents as having that authentic voice, had to say last night.
Please do not discount that what you are doing here tonight, and I hope continue to do not think that that doesn't matter. It matters a lot. They're counting on us getting tired, thinking we can't stop it, thinking he has all the power. The Constitution says he doesn't. I say he doesn't. Everyone here says he doesn't, and we have to continue to remind them.
So, Allie, did the folks you talked to last night feel empowered, feel that they could influence what's happening?
I think it was one of the most striking parts about this. There was a lot of angst, a lot of frustration, a lot of deep-seated fear, people coming in and openly talking about that. The congressman channeling that. Simone is right to point out the way that Ryan has ridden to political success in a purple area is by being a straight talker, someone who tries to call balls and strikes in bipartisan fashion. We saw that on display last night. But as I was talking to voters as they left, I asked them, does any of this make you feel any better? Do you still feel hopeful about the path ahead for your party and for your community? And several of them said, yeah, I'm still struggling. I'm still scared. I don't like the direction this country is going. But it felt good to find community. And it felt good to hear that the concerns that I'm sharing with my friends and family are shared by strangers who are also here in this district, and that our congressperson is, to borrow Simone's word, validating the experiences that we're seeing here and feeling about the national landscape politically.
You're right, Simone. We've been talking about this for a little bit, and I don't know whether you, called this or motivated it or both, but you've been talking about exactly what we're seeing now that's growing and growing and growing. So what can Democrats do to amplify and organize these voices?
Well, what is most important here is that it is organic, if you will. This is not being led by the Democratic elected leadership. And so the best thing that they can do is to listen and kind of ride the wave that the people are helping create. A number of these rallies, Senator Sanders, I just want to be clear, when I worked for Senator Sanders, he was having these rallies back in 2015 where we were seeing, 15,000 people in LA, 10,000 people coming out to see him in Seattle. The crowds mean to me that people are looking to hear from someone that they think can give them a path and a way forward. Crowds, though, and I will caution, do not necessarily vote, because if they did, Bernie Sanders would have been the Democratic nominee in 2016. So I do think that Democrats have to, they should be responsive to the energy that is here, but they also have to, again, what is the path forward on the other side? If they elect Democrats to the House of Representatives and give Hakeem Jeffries the Speaker's gavel, what will be different? It can't just be about stopping Donald Trump, but where's the proactive plan? And I do think Democrats have that, and you're gonna start hearing more about that. But right now, they're in the listening phase, as they should be, frankly, Chris.